Alright everybody, so recently I've been having a lot of fun using the buffed Grand Overture. Its missile's got a 50% damage buff going into Season 19, and honestly, it really is up there putting in its work and holding its own. We already did a few videos. We did one video where we one-phase each of the Grasp of Avarice dungeon bosses, and then we did another one where we took it against Persis in the Spire of the Watcher dungeon, the final boss over there. And we figured the next step was to go ahead and at least take it through against some raid bosses, see how it would do, how it would fare, how it would stand up. And we decided to go ahead and test it up against the King's Fall bosses because there's quite a few of them. You have War Priest, Golgoroth, the Sisters, and then Oryx himself. And then some of these fights are actually really good design for how this gun can play to its strong suits and dumping out a lot of missiles. First one up being War Priest. If you just want to go ahead and drop your will up here on the stage with him, this is definitely going to be the best spot to go ahead and put in some really good deeps with this gun if you are trying to, test it out and use it for yourself. I myself personally was not using Font of Might because I was, dropping the well for everybody. In this clip, I am the only warlock in the fire team, so I really don't have much of a choice even if I wanted to run arc. But even still, we are going to run out of our ammo a little bit towards the end of the damage phase, so I just switched to a chill clip weapon. But we're still able to take down the War Priest in a respectable two-phase, bro. Grand Overture feeling pretty strong right now. I don't have any more ammo. Missiles, come on, no. Now, for everybody's favorite ogre, we got our good old pal Golgoroth. Now, I will be 1000 with you guys. This guy in particular can be a little bit finicky with this weapon in particular. I mean, even with like linear fusion rifles, if you're not hitting his, actual crit spot and, registering damage numbers, then you're not really going to be doing that much damage hardly at all. Now for this setup, what I decided to use, since I couldn't really use Font of Might here again, I mean, I guess I could, but I went with something a little bit cheeky. So since we do have things like Weaken Clear, I used that to go ahead and just do the skip reload for my Grand Overture and then spammed a little bit of Starfire Fusionates in between. Even though we did have somebody running with a tractor to debuff Golgoroth, I still wanted to, just skip the reload and, get a little bit extra damage in there by throwing in some of the good old fusion grenades. And respectively, when you're able to hit all of the shots, able to load your missiles relatively decent, and nobody's blowing themselves up, or rather blowing each other up with the unstable debuff, then you will see that Grand Overture can definitely put in some work even on this boss, which I would argue is probably the most annoying or hardest one out of this entire raid to actually use Grand Overture the most effective way to its fullest potential. Otherwise, you're just going to be looking stupid shooting nothing, or rather shooting for no damage numbers, which nobody wants to do that, especially with their heavy weapon. One thing that I do want to note that we did for this encounter, uniquely only this one though, we had one of our gaze holders, Hyphen, the GOAT, the Great himself, running the Lumina to occasionally give us the Blessing of the Sky buff for a little bit of extra damage to our guns, to our Grand Overture, to the volley of rockets. But outside of that, we tried our best to make sure we had some form of a damage buff for every little puddle or pool of reclaimed light, whether it was my Empowering Rift, a Radiant buff, a Lumina buff, like just anything, or the Well of Radiance. And yeah, I did kind of scuff at the end there. I didn't shoot my last volley of missiles, so I missed out a little bit of extra damage, but it is what it is. Overall, still pretty impressed with how this gun did against our good pal Golgi.
Grenade, storm grenade, come on baby, come through.
And then next up, we got the twin Death Singers, or the two sisters, and I will admit, Grand Overture was really able to put these sisters down and was able to one-phase both of them with a little bit of help of Font of Might. I was able to be on arc for this encounter, so I went ahead and put on an Empowering Rift, as well as I did give everybody a little arc soul, which did kind of help. And I was running, once again, Weaken Clear, try and skip the reload, especially because I'm on arc. I don't have access to the Rain of Fire here, so can't Icarus Dash as like a crutch or a safety net. So really had to trust to make sure the flinch wouldn't knock off my grenade launcher shot and I wouldn't be stuck there reloading for at least 3 seconds, wasting my damn time, because you really do want to be getting as many big chunks of volleys of rockets with this weapon as much as possible throughout the damage phase to really get the true DPS out of this weapon if you actually wanted to put up some relatively respectable numbers. Otherwise, it's kind of a standard basic LMG, as the missiles are what received the 50% damage increase, not the normal LMG rounds. Keep that in mind. And then last but not least, we have our good old buddy Oryx himself, the Taken King. Now this is going to be another fight where I'm not going to be able to have access to Font of Might because I'm running my Solar Well of Radiance, baby. Now what we did in order to have our rockets, hit all of Oryx, we actually kind of ran up a little close to whatever side he picked to drop our well and actually do our damage from, to make sure our rockets once again would get the most bang for their buck and make sure they would actually hit all of their targets, because if you're missing your rockets, you're missing out on the actual main main part of the damage for this damn gun, right? So in order to get around that, we just went ahead and push up a little bit further. Now that did, knock off a couple seconds of damage that we certainly could have used. However, it still did respectively well, but this is definitely a fight where I would say you're just so much better off just running the linears, getting the juicy 2-phase, or if you want to, activate more bombs, then you could definitely go for a 1-phase like that. But because Oryx's crit spot is literally never moving, it's so free and easy to hit, linears are just absolute kings in this specific encounter, this specific boss fight. I mean, they're good everywhere, but they're just absolutely perfect in this encounter because his crit spot is never moving. Either way, I'm digressing. For this, we made sure that we only got the normal 4 bombs activated for damage. We didn't go for any extra or any crazy thing like that. Just want to make sure that we had the normal standard amount of time for damage so that it was a relatively fair view of just what the Grand Overture can do against one of Destiny's most iconic raid bosses. With that being said, let me know your thoughts and opinions on this Grand Overture down in the comments. I personally think it's pretty damn good and pretty damn fun.